Take two. Kyle here from All Media Reviews, here to do albums of the year 1984, which again is rough draft, of course, as I've said on all these. So I'm going to go over a lot of records that aren't on the list, and even the stuff at the bottom, really very vague familiarity, other than a few tracks here and there on some of them. So you have Don Henley's Building the Perfect Beast, which includes the song Boys of Summer, In Excess the Swing, which I think has one or two of their hits, but of course they would get really massive with I think it's the next album, Kick, in '87. Lindsey Buckingham's Go Insane, which I don't think has Holiday Road, but anyway, it's a well-liked, rated record, but I have never heard it. Tina Turner's Private Dancer, arguably this could go on my list because it has what Love Got to Do with It, the title track, and Better Be Good to Me. That's the first song I ever heard from her. But Howard Jones' Lib, which has a track called New Song. Here, let me just do this just to make this a little bit better. Lib, New Song and What Is Love, two of the top 40 hits among many hits he had. Simple Minds, Sparkle in the Rain, that's the one that predated Don't You Forget About Me, but a lot of people love that record. I've never really heard it. Chick Corea's Children's Songs, which I know later on writes children's songs that they did an interpretation of, but I've never heard the Chick original. Let's see, Ultravox's Lament, another one I haven't heard. Talk Talks, It's My Life. That I know the title track, but that was before they went into like post-rock or proto-post-rock, but they were doing more poppy, more like new wave pop rock of that point. Robin Hitchcock's I Often Dream of Trains. I think I've seen him play the title track. I think that's what it's... But, I've seen Robin Hitchcock live a couple times, and very Syd Barrett influence, but I haven't heard the record. Joe Jackson's Body and Soul. I'm really getting into Joe Jackson, but I have not heard that record yet. Survivor's Vital Signs, which includes the song I Can't Hold Back and High on You, which is the one that followed the, of course, they had Eye of the Tiger from, it was like 83 or whatever, 82. But it has those two tracks. Dio's The Last in Line of the second Dio album. I've always known Holy Diver. I don't know his second record. Sade's debut album, Diamond Life, which includes maybe the most well-known Sade song, Smooth Operator. Talking Heads, Stop Making Sense. That's a live album, I think, because they did the film that they restored and put in theaters last year. And Queen's the Work. So a lot of these are just, it's like splitting hairs, really. So I just did rank them. Number 23, Through Pub Meeple. I don't think I did Through Pub Meeple, but should do it. David Gilmour's second album, About Face. That's number 23. Number 22, it's, again, the post-English settlement pre-Skylarking XTC. I have this on vinyl. I paid $50 for it as a promo. Which has a couple of songs. So The Big Express from the XTC. Wake Up, All You Pretty Girls, Seagulls Screaming. What is it? There's two other. I Remember the Sun, I think it is, but yeah, again, I'm not as familiar with, and I haven't had as much appreciation from those particular, XTC. Although XTC has always been a band of spotlighted tracks versus full-length albums, other than a couple. So that's number 22. Number 21, the second album from Madonna, which is, of course, this is my wife's copy, which Like a Virgin, which has the title track, Material Girl. I believe Angel might have been a single also. And Shooby Doo, maybe. However, the song Into the Groove was not on this record, but it was released in '85, the year after in Europe, which included it. But Into the Groove was on the Suddenly Seeking Susan soundtrack, and it was released as a single. But anyway, because they say I probably like Tina Turner's album as much as that, so Tina Turner's Private Dancer probably should be in the same list or same section. But number 21, number 20, Kool and the Gang's album Emergency, which features the track Misled, which is a great. I love the synthesizer and the arrangement on that track, and Cherish among some other. I don't know if they had any other tracks, but those are the two that I think of for that record. Number 20, number 19. I honestly don't know how many times I've actually listened to this, but this is the return of Ritchie Blackmore to Deep Purple. Includes the title track, Perfect Strangers, I've always loved. Ever since hearing, Dream Theater cover, and then I got into the Deep Purple version, and they played it. Mean Streak's another one that I know on this album, but yeah, I mean it's not classic Deep Purple, but it does have the return of Ritchie Blackmore, Annie and Gillan. So I mean it's basically like a reunion album. Knocking at your back door is another one of the hits. It's like a reunion of the Mark II lineup in some ways. Yeah, because you look at it. So this is a promo. I think this is a promo I got. Classic line. Yeah, $5. Yeah. Anyway, so Deep Purple. There's kind of an interesting video I saw a few years ago on YouTube from that song. Perfect Strangers, number 19. Number 18, I'm sticking it here. It's a record I need to continue to go back to. I may have seen a copy of it yesterday when I went record shopping at Agartha. Jane Siberry's No Borders Here. I know Jane Siberry because Kevin Gilbert covered her song, I believe it was Lonely Road. And he really admired it. It was an interview, like the Mark and Brian, he talked about who he'd want to like work with, and Jane Siberry was one of the first names. And I listened to it a few weeks ago, the first time, and I like moments of it, although there weren't like any like 1, 2, 3 tracks that just like blew my mind, but it is progressive. There's a lot of layering on it. She has a nice voice, but it's a record that, and she's an artist that I may potentially get more into, sort of like I've gotten more into 10cc and Talking Heads and Joe Jackson of late. Jane Siberry I've kind of slept on. So number 18, No Borders Here for Jane Siberry. Number 17, I have to stick this somewhere. It's Wham's Make It Big, of course, which features Careless Whisper, Everything She Wants, my wife's favorite song of all time. Wake Me Up Before You Go was everywhere. And Freedom, not Freedom 90, that's a George Michael song. This is a Wham song. This does not have I'm Your Man, though, which I think might have been on the previous record. So, but the final Wham album, Make It Big. Yeah, I mean, it's an album that my wife knows, you know, like the back of her hand. And of course, I've heard it just being around her we've been together for how long? 12, 13 years now. But yeah, I wouldn't deny it's a pop classic from the 80s, and it needs to be on this list. So number 17. Number 16, Duran Duran's Arena, which it's like a live album. It wasn't an EP, but it did have at least one specifically notable studio track in Wild Boys. Or The Wild Boys, I think it is. Yeah, Arena was always one that I liked. I gotta make sure this doesn't die on me. But I didn't follow them closely. Like I said, my brother was the Duran Duran person in our household, and I was the Huey Lewis person. But I believe most of it is live, you know. I mean, I was, whatever it was, 8, 9 years old when it came out. And so I didn't know, I was like, bands release, like, mixture live albums, and, yeah, I'm not sure, like, some of these some of these are, it's like, it's a live album, yeah. But the thing is, because I haven't heard it in a long time, the Wild Boys actually a live recording. I always assume, because they play that on the radio. So, I mean, it's got Hunger Like the Wolf, New Religion, Save a Prayer, Union of the Snake, Planet Earth, Girls on Film in Rio, the bonus tracks on the 2004 remaster, and some other songs like Seven Stranger, The Chauffeur. I mean, it was I don't know where it was recorded actually, but anyway, it's got a great set list of songs and the Wild Boys, so it kind of needs to be on this list. Duran Duran probably at their peak. Well, people like the next album, Notorious, which I remember my brother hated it. Anyway, number 15, and this is a little bit like Perfect Strangers. King Crimson, Three of a Perfect Pair, the final of the three, like the Discipline era Crimson records. The title track I've always adored. It also has Larkstown Aspect Part 3. The rest of it is kind of nondescript. I mean, again, it's the sort of math rock, proto-math rock kind of stuff they did. Nuages, Man with an Open Heart, Dig Me. But anyway, I mean, it's splitting hairs. Discipline's the one that's probably the most respected of the three. Beat, I think this is the final one. Beat was the one that came after. I don't think that I had that on my 83 list. But anyway, I have to put it in there. I mean, the title track is fantastic. Adrian played it live. I saw Crimson. They played it live a couple times when I did see them. So that's number 15, right? Number 14. I don't have this on vinyl. Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA, which I'm missing the compact disc too, sadly. But Everyone has heard the title track and like Glory Days a million times. That's the title track. They're okay. The track that stands out the most has always been Bobby Jean. I've always enjoyed that track more than the rest of this record. I like I'm on Fire and Cover Me. Pointer Sisters, I think, covered. I want to say Cover Me. Yeah. The lyrics on I'm on Fire is kind of weird. It's a little creepy. Hey, little girl, is your daddy? I don't know. Oh, and I forgot Dancing in the Dark, which, you know, compared to the title, Born in the USA, the title track, and Glory Days, Dancing in the Dark was one of those singles. That one still holds up. The video first was filmed in St. Paul, and Courtney Cox was in it and everything. But, yeah, so Born in the USA, number 14 from Bruce Springsteen. And I can't, he'll be showing up on previous lists. I have some of his other albums, and I know a lot of them. The Rising's the one that I need to, like, I want to pick up a physical copy I've listened to in the last few years I've liked. Number 13, we got another live release here. Marillion's Reel to Reel, of course, which is really an EP. It's really, yeah, it's, I can't remember if Mick Pointer had already left the band. I think maybe this is after he left the band, but it has a lot of stuff from the album they released in '84, Fugazi, of course, and the debut album. Cinderella Search, Garden Party, my favorite too. It's got Market Square Heroes, which was the first single. But, yeah, I mean, for live albums from Marillion isn't at the top of my list, but, you know, they're my favorite band, and it's still a statement in history, Reel to Reel, even though it's just an EP. It has to go on there somewhere. Number 12, another EMI artist, the debut album from Queensryche, The Warning, or just Warning, rather. I'm thinking of the band. This features a couple songs I always think of it for. I like other Queensryche albums more, as we'll see, going on through the 80s and in the 90s. Take Hold of the Flame, though, is the number one track on this album for me. The title track, Enforce, NM156. They were, again, sounding very new wave of British heavy metal. I still like push comes to shove, I like the debut EP more than this, but yeah, I mean, it's a good record. It's a good debut album. You know, they would do better things, of course, but anyway, number 12, and they were on, I believe it was on EMI at that point. Let's look up the label here. Because them and Marillion, and the thing is, when I first heard Fishes was, yeah, it's EMI America, as you can see, that version. I would see this frequently at Jaime's, and eventually I just picked it up. Jaime's, the record store, which never would carry new vinyl, anything past about 1988, for the longest time. I eventually just had to pick it up. Let's see, number 12. Number 11. Yeah, number 11, we have another 80s staple. Van Halen's 1984, which has the title track, Jump, of course, and Jump was everywhere. They're probably the biggest Van Halen song still to this day. Panama, which I like. Hot for Teacher. Girl Gone Bad. It's more synth-driven, of course. It's pretty well documented how Eddie Van Halen wanted to start using synths and everything, and you know, I mean, again, it's more about the songs for Van Halen, like many artists, like some of these others on this list, than their albums. But this is kind of this is the face of besides between this and the debut. The debut album I like more, probably. But, I mean, among the famous Van Halen albums, it's this album and it's the debut album. I think, you know, again, this is, people love it, people hate it because they don't like the synths, people that love the Roth era, but I think even the people that enjoy Roth do enjoy a lot of this still. But Top Jimmy, I'll Wait. Yeah, I haven't listened to this album in a long time, but you know, it's got enough music on it that I've enjoyed it. Had to go at this high. So number 11. Number 10, okay, so here's a couple records I do not have physical copies of. Iron Maiden's Power Slave, which I'm still kind of taking in Iron Maiden's catalog in this process, which I've known songs here and there. It is a good record. A lot of people consider this the best Iron Maiden album, at least from the 80s. It's the third album with Bruce Dickinson, I think. Yeah, they were putting like an album out every year, because Peace of Mind was 83 and Number of the Beast was 82. It features, of course, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, which is like them doing prog metal. It's maybe one of the first prog metal, if not the first prog metal epics, because it predates some of the other ones like Fate's Warning and obviously Drink. They're trying to think of the other bands that did epics. But, I mean, you could put Rush, you could put like 2112 or the Cygnus series, or even Natural Science or Jacob's Ladder as a prog metal epic, but those don't consider Rush prog metal. They're just influence on prog metal, a proto prog metal. But Flash of the Blade Bridge, which I think is that, and the Lost for Words are the other two like favorites. I mean, Iron Maiden to me are hit and miss. Their best songs are good, but there's a lot of them that just follow a formula that sounds very samey, unfortunately. So I think I rated it about 3 stars, bordering on 3.5. But I'll say that when they're doing, and the title track is good too. When they're good, they are very good, and so that. But I can say that Bruce Dickinson, as a singer, well, he's not a bad singer. He's a much better singer than Paul Di'Anno. All the other prog metal bands I enjoy have better singers. I'll just flat out say that. Even though they came first, I prefer vocalists from Queensryche, Fates Warning, both Fates Warning singers, Savatage. All of them are more distinct to me, and so that's kind of why Maiden's I've never been fully in love with them. But you know, things by Maiden's catalog, this is one of their best records. I'd probably include a couple more records in the '80s from them, and I may be kind of done with them. Because I listened to Book of Souls a few years ago, and it was like an hour and a half, 2 hours of like basically the same thing over and over again to me. Anyway, number 9, Ride the Lightning from Metallica. Let me pull up my Spotify. I didn't write any examples down, and I hope my computer's battery is not going to die. But obviously, this is the second album from Metallica and a step up, both in songwriting and performance. This is the first album that had Kirk Hammett, actually writing, because I believe most of the guitar parts were written by Dave Mustaine on Kill 'Em All. But I mean, the production is still not perfect, which hurts. Even though I was listening to a remaster, but it's still better. But I'll say this: there's a bunch of just like notable Metallica tracks that I appreciate. Not like I love, but I appreciate them. Creeping Death, For Whom the Bell Tolls, is a staple. That's a top 5 Metallica song for a lot of people, including myself. Fade to Black, Ride the Lightning, the title track, and Fight Fire with Fire, and then The Call of Cthulhu, which I believe is an instrumental. Yeah, I mean, the guitar work and some of the fast riffs are they're more on showcase on this record. And, I mean, it's kind of a mood record, but I can understand why people love this record, and I'm not sure it's my favorite Metallica, because I don't have a huge, like difference between some of their different records going up to the Black Album, but I can understand, and that's why I put it at number 9. So number 8, a big shifting gears from Metallica. I got this literally yesterday. Maybe I'll do a vinyl update. I'll show it again. But the Footloose soundtrack, which I had this on cassette tape. I don't know if I can find it still when I was a kid, but it has several like very notable 80s pop songs. The title track by Kenny Loggins, and also I'm Free, or it's known as I'm Free. There's more to it. Heaven Helps the Man. And then it has Almost Paradise, which R.I.P. Eric Carmen, who wrote that, and was the duet with, who was it? The duet with, there it is, Ann Wilson of Heart, right, and Mike Reno from Loverboy, which is kind of saccharine, but I don't despise it, although it sounds a lot like Air Supply to me, but it also has, this album has Bonnie Tyler's Holding Out for a Hero and Let's Hear It for the Boy by Denise Williams. Yeah, those were just like massive. I heard those all the time. So yeah, it has a lot of really good tracks. I mean, it's Carla Bonoff, of course. Some other people on it. Shalimar, Dancing in the Sheets, not Dancing in the Streets, but yeah, I mean, the movie itself I've seen maybe twice, but the soundtrack is a staple. It was like, this is probably the first thing I ever heard Kenny Loggins do, the title track. The title track alone is, he's had a lot of famous songs in movies, Kenny Loggins. I'm All Right from Caddyshack, and the song from the theme. No, I'm thinking of Pat. I was thinking Pat Benatar from theme from Billie Jean. But I think the title track is still the most famous Kenny Loggins song. Not Loggins and Messina, but the solo Kenny Loggins song. Maybe between the two of them, actually. So numbers, I had the numbers wrong on there. That was number 8. Number 7, yeah, because I got this wrong. 7. So technically that would be number 9. I could back everything up. So I'll just say next. This is a tied for number. We're doing a tie for number 7. Fates Warning's debut album, Night on Brocken, which they would go on to do almost every record I prefer, actually, for the most part. But it does have a few tracks I like, especially Damnation. You know, even though listening to the early Iron Maiden, especially the Bruce Dickinson Iron Maiden, can hear the influence is pretty obvious. When I said, oh, they're just basically sounding like Maiden. They're like a Maiden, America's answer to Maiden. To an extent. John Arch, though, his vocals would get more distinct, but he still sounds more distinct, somewhat distinct on here. I've always enjoyed the instrumental, I believe it is, Shadowfax. I always wondered if that had anything to do with the band Shadowfax from the 80s, or from the 70s rather, the fusion band. The title track, Buried Alive, The Calling. It's a fun, energetic record. It's still good. And I'm a Fates Warning fanboy, so I love Fates Warning. And, you know, Night in Brocken belongs this high. So that's number 7A, I guess, and 7B. Because I was moving stuff around, I didn't renumber everything. Had to put it somewhere, even though, like Fates Warning, this is not my least favorite Kevin Gilbert related record, but one of, because it was his first record when he was 17 when he was making this. NRG, No Reasons Given, not his first band actually, but his first band that recorded, which features, you know, Mirror Image, Morning Light, that the first track. I don't think they didn't release. They tried to like put that as a single. Watching Me, Good Man, Bad Man, and Wings of Time. I mean, it sounds like 80s prog in some ways, which I'm not crazy about, but it's Kevin Gilbert, and so even though at this young age he was singing at higher range, I still appreciate the songwriting. If I were to attach those extra tracks that end up on that download and then are on Spotify, I might bump this up a couple spots because it had a couple tracks I prefer. The one Epic, you know, that song Tarantula, and I forget. I should know it, but anyway, NRG, No Reasons Given, the one album from Kevin. You know, they had Bob Carroll, and they were basically, they wonder if they were considered a trio. Hubbard, John J. Hubbard. Well, he was the one who produced it. Anyway, number 7B. So number 6, Weird Al Yankovic sophomore album in 3D that features the hit "Eat It." That was the one that I got introduced to Weird Al. Probably in '84. But every song on here I've heard a million times. Like, know these. The Brady Bunch, Buy Me a Condo. It's kind of a parody of like reggae and like the Wailers or Bob Marley. King of Suede, which is King of Pain. I mean, all the parodies. That Boy Could Dance, which isn't really a parody, but it's humor. Maybe a parody of something else, but it's funny. It's a really catchy track. Nature Trail to Hell, which is a parody of horror movies. And then, of course, Raya the Kaiser theme from Rocky 8. Midnight Star, which is about tabloids. So I think in some ways it was more creative. I Lost on Jeopardy, which some of these are pure parodies, and some of these are creative, like parodies of something in pop culture. The other one thing that's on this that I always think of, because a lot of these songs I'd never heard at the time I heard this for the first time, Polkas on 45 takes like, I want to say about 15 45 singles and just kind of does them in a polka version. It's just a little snippet, little excerpts, little, you know, moments. But it's I've always had a soft spot for this record. There's not a better record that he ever did to me. A record I have more nostalgia and connection to. He's done a lot of other songs I like, including the last record. You know, he did a few. I think what was it? White and Nerdy is maybe his best track since that record, though. But he's done a lot of other ones I've liked. Anyway, so number 5. I had to have Marillion's Fugazi on here. This year seems to have a lot of records from a lot of my favorite bands that I would like more other records at other years, other albums later. Fugazi, the second sophomore record from Marillion. The title track is a terrific, you know, prog, mid-level prog piece, and the best song on here for me. The single Assassin is good. I think they release, I'm pretty sure they release Punch and Judy, the second song, also as a single. I mean, this record, of course, to me, as I talked about a couple years ago, comes across more about the lyrical and poetic element of Fish. Now, he would do the same thing to a degree on the following records, but the music takes a backseat at points on here to the vocals and the lyrics and the poetry. Incubus and She Could Be, I mean, there's some really dark lyrics in this. But, you know, again, musically it's still Marillion, and I have to appreciate that. And, you know, they're my favorite band, so that's why it goes at number 5. Number 4, I have I have my wife's copy here. Purple Rain from Prince. I'm going to have to set this down. show my what is this, like a remastered? Comes with the DVD and everything too. Purple Rain, which, you know, again, a lot of the songs we've heard, like the title track and Let's Go Crazy, you know, 500 times, but Computer Blue is definitely the staple. And I'll say that although I've heard it many times too, Take Me With You is a great poppy track. Darling Nikki is decent. It's kind of weird lyrically, kind of a, you know, Thank You for a Funky Time. Take Me With You, I mentioned that. Was it I Would Die For You, the number 4. Baby I'm a Star, which is still one of his more standard tracks, but hasn't gotten as much play as some of the others. And of course, When Doves Cry, which that's like Dancing in the Dark, where it's been played a million times, but I still find it catchy and I don't hate it. You know, I haven't been burnt out on it. So yeah, Purple Rain. You know, Push Comes to Shove might be my favorite Prince record. It's the most famous of them, the most highest selling. And a lot of Prince fans who love his whole catalog probably still consider it their favorite, but some people don't. But anyway, number 3, another 80s staple band. U2 is The Unforgettable Fire, which I love a couple tracks on this. The title track especially, A Sort of Homecoming, and Bad. Those are 3 of my top 10 U2 songs for sure. I love the textures they explored. This is when I found that The Edge really found his sort of guitar style and tone, that texture he become so well known for. It has some others that I still appreciate. I mean, Pride in the Name of Love, that was maybe the first U2 song I knew. They always played that on their local sports prep show. Yeah, it was about Dr. King and everything like that. 4th of July, you know, the MLK track. It's a terrific album. I mean, I go back and forth. It probably is my favorite U2 album, although it's splitting hairs. I don't separate them enough, but yeah, number 3. So number 2, we have the big band Rush, which, you know, they're in full force into the synth era after Signals from '82. Grace Under Pressure. Love this album. Love every track on it. Some more than others, of course. My favorites being Between the Wheels and After Image. I don't have to go with the After Image. It's really sad that what After Image is actually about, but it's a wonderfully sort of textured track. Between the Wheels, I get goosebumps. And that's also got that sad vocal line that Geddy has. The wheels of time will pass you by. Yeah, I mean, After Image has Suddenly You Were Gone. When Neil passed away, that was the first song I thought of. But Distant Early Warning, even though it was a single in the video, I always liked that song. I grew to like that. And Red Sector A, lyrically, is a little hard to take, because it's kind of about these people like in the middle of World War II, you know, running from the Nazis. Experience of Geddy's parents, you know, escaping the Holocaust. I mean, for the most part, I don't know if it's purely about that, but I always think of that. The liberators here, you know. Body Electric, Kid Gloves is another favorite. Favorite, like, name that people use, but the guitar riff is great on that. Red Lenses is decent, you know, and The Enemy Within, part of that Fear trilogy, I've liked. I've never loved, but I mean, Grace Under Pressure, I think, like many Rush records, basically from Caress of Steel or even all the way through Presto, it's like it's hard to find tracks I don't like. And that's why Grace Under Pressure is no exception, and it goes this high. I mean, in other years it might have ended up a little lower, but it would have been in the top 10 for sure. So number 1, mostly because I love to death 2 tracks on this record. The Pat Metheny album, First Circle. This is the first album that he had, Paul Wertigo, who, push comes to shove, if I'm picking one drummer I love, and I got to see him live once, he's my favorite drummer. The cymbal work and the pitch that he got on the snare is just second to none. And that song, Yolanda You Learn, is just the most uplifting piece ever. I'm so happy. And the title track is fantastic. A lot of the rest of this record is kind of new agey, but I feel like I've enjoyed it more and more. Stuff like End of the Game, Maz Allah. The other thing that stands out on this is some of the vocal chanting, which he would use at other times, like on Speaking of Now and I think Imaginary Day. He's used different vocalists. They're not singing words, really. They're just chanting. Kind of like what Peter Gabriel did when he had Yasuna Dur and some other vocalists. Yeah, the production is just pristine, of course, and interesting, some of this was going back to 1978, with maybe the cover art. But, back here, but, yeah, I mean, it's into my top 10, maybe top 5 jazz fusion or jazz rock records, even though, again, it has a new age element. Pedro Aznar is the vocalist I'm talking about, but anyway, that's it for 1984. Love to see your list. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.